Have you in here.
Thanks for having me.
If you watch History Channel, Discovery Channel, the guy's on there all the time. So, but it's not TV, so you won't recognize him since it's radio. Good to have you back in Fresno.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Archaeology, biblical scholar. Obviously, you spent a lot of time in the Middle East. Looking at what? What are you looking for? What's your area of expertise?
Well, I work with the Dead Sea Scrolls mainly, so these are...
We could talk for hours.
Yes. These are documents that opened up a whole new world into what life was like in the first centuries BC and AD. And so, it really gave us an opportunity to see, was the Judaism that we read about in the Bible, was that all there was, or were there other groups of Jews doing different things? And what the Dead Sea Scrolls revealed to us is there were other people doing different things that didn't necessarily get preserved over time. Yeah,
that's true. There were different groups of, do we call them different groups of Jews, or people that just observe basically the same faith?
Yeah, that's a great question. What can you call Judaism? What was Judaism? I often refer to it as Judaisms. That is, there were many different ways to interpret the Hebrew Bible, the prophecies, the Torah, and then different groups interpreted these things different ways. Obviously, the Christians applied these prophecies to Jesus and went around and did their things. But the Dead Sea Scrolls, the group that compiled them, pointed all of those prophecies to their own leader, the teacher of righteousness.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you look at the creation of the Bible, there were so many books that were left out.
Correct.
As designated by whomever, but
right.
It was, well, I'm preaching to the choir, written by these different groups that really weren't accepted by whoever it was at the time that said,
right,
we're going to accept this as the New Testament.
Well, they did take a vote. I mean, in that regard, there were certain books that were unquestioned, and there were lots of books. This goes for both the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, and the New Testament. There were certain books that were just accepted, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. No one ever really doubted them. But there were other books in the New Testament that were questionable. And so some of these got voted out, some of them got voted in, some of them were voted out and then voted back in. And through that process, over a period of time, you get the Christian New Testament. The same thing with the Hebrew Bible. You have this process going on. It's important to remind folks, though, that the Dead Sea Scrolls have no New Testament books in them. That's all Hebrew Bible.
Right. But getting back to that whole New Testament thing lately, which has been something I've been sticking my nose into because all these different books that weren't in and were in and all of that, it makes you just kind of ponder, and there's no answer to this. What's right? Who was correct here?
That's right.
What's the proper observation of history?
That's right. And that's why orthodoxy, the whole idea of orthodoxy, figuring out what we can believe, what we shouldn't believe, was such an important thing to all the early Christian councils. Christianity was so incredibly diverse in the first centuries that there were so many different ideas about Jesus, who he was he human, was he divine, was he both, that these different groups had these different beliefs and different documents to back up these beliefs. So over time, as certain beliefs were kind of cast aside as heretical, the books that were associated with those groups and those beliefs were also cast out, and we call those the pseudepigrapha, or the apocrypha, the books that didn't make it into the Bible.
What got you into all this?
I took a class.
Why are you doing what I want to do?
Yeah.
You want to trade jobs?
Believe it or not, I took a class with a man named Don Larson at Fresno City.
Oh,
College.
yeah, of course.
And he opened me up to Western Civ, which reaches all the way back. And it just kind of piqued my interest. I wanted to be a doctor. I was a natural scientist. But he kind of planted that seed. And then as I finished up at Fresno State with a pre-med degree, I still had this lingering issues of faith and humanities in the back of my head. I enrolled at Pepperdine to pursue a Master of Divinity. And about one semester into that, I realized I wasn't going to preach. I wasn't going to go into the seminary side of it. I was going to be a biblical scholar. I was going to be an archaeologist. And that natural science bug, came back up.
That flipped on the I want to look side.
I want to ask every question there is. I want to know all the answers. I can't know all the answers, so I want to at least ask very, very good, smart questions, and ask the questions that maybe a lot of people are afraid to ask because their parents or their rabbi or their priest, or they don't want to. Are you sure you want to ask that question? Are you sure you want to question that part of the faith? I want to be able to ask all those questions and then present the facts and let people make up their minds for themselves.
Well, I guess I could talk to you for hours. If you have any available time between noon and 2 today, just drop back and I'll spend an hour with you on the air. We could have a ball. Well, I appreciate you coming in, Doctor, and best of luck to you in the future.
Thanks for having me.
What are you working on now?
I have just taken a job at the University of Iowa. I'm going to be a professor of classics and religious studies in Iowa City at the University of Iowa Hawkeyes.
Wonderful.
So I'm getting ready to move. My wife is about to have a baby. We're expecting in August.
Congrats.
And so thank you. And so we've got a packed summer.
All right. Well, Dr. Robert Cargill, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I greatly enjoy meeting you and appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Let's get to